My friends, we're now 4 months since it all started. I think we can confidently say that Ukraine's summer offensive was a complete failure. It's painful to say, but what a military disaster. And such video is just the latest proof of it. Despite non-stop waves of infantry assaults, not very far away from banzai attacks, what we call the counteroffensive achieved none of its objectives, and it will be remembered as one of the greatest military setbacks in modern history. Heavy losses for meager territorial gains, which the Russians could very well be in the process of recapturing. I think it's time to say Prashai Pobieda. Oh no, apologies. Ukrainian commanders did achieve one thing. They managed to turn the beautiful fields of Zaporozhye into a bloodbath. Thousands of conscripts that the West has spent months to train to NATO standards are now buried, without even talking about the hundreds of pieces of military equipment just rusting there. Whoever signed off the plan of the counteroffensive is a criminal.
Give the man a name.
Anyway, the battle for the Sea of Azov is now over. Soon the greenery will disappear and will expose Ukrainian positions. Within a couple days, the rainy season will start, and all of Ukraine's wheeled vehicles will get stuck in the mud, like this Max Pro you can see on screen. I don't understand. NAFO intellectuals promised us a beach party in Crimea by August. I don't understand. Is it because they're incompetent trolls? Welcome to History Legends. Here are the latest news of the Russo-Ukrainian war. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. As you know, some of my Ukraine videos have been targeted with limited or no ads. So make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal to keep the show running. Thank you to everyone that has already helped, and welcome to the headquarters. Anyway, I think it's time for the final assessment of this kontrnastup. Here is a before or after. Here's a situation on June 4th, on the eve of the general offensive, and then 4 months later, on the 4th of October. As you can see, Ukraine is still very far from the Sea of Azov, which was necessary to cut off the land bridge linking Russia to Crimea. Apart from a handful of hamlets, Ukraine was not able to secure any strategic objectives, like Melitopol, Berdyansk, or Mariupol. Even smaller tactical victory points like Tokmak, Polohi, or even Staromlinivka are all still firmly under Russian control. If we zoom in on the west end, Ukraine pushed 5 kilometers, gained 4 villages and 60 square kilometers. In the center, in that infamous Robotine-Verbove sector, Ukraine captured 76 square kilometers of land, but only 1 village, Robotine. And in the east, this is where Ukraine had the most success. This was the least fortified part of the Russian defenses, and the Ukrainians gained 244 square kilometers and 8 settlements. And from a tactical perspective, they also managed to remove the Vremyevsky salient and level up the front, which could be useful in a follow-up offensive. In total, throughout the summer, Ukraine secured 13 villages and 380 square kilometers. Wait for it, out of 44,467, or less than 1% of what they were supposed to secure. Oh, but we're saved by the bell. According to Ben Walsh's interview with The Telegraph, Ukraine is winning. Let's just finish the job.
You serious?
As a matter of fact, in 2023, Russia gained more ground than Ukraine. No, the sensitive topic. How many Ukrainian losses for such meager results? CBS News wrote, Ukraine never releases figures of their losses in the war against Russia, but in the 3 months since their counteroffensive kicked off, there appears to have been a sharp increase in casualties. We don't have a precise number. The only one we have is from the Russian MOD, which claimed 70,000 irrecoverable Ukrainian losses during the summer. Irrecoverable meaning KIA or severely wounded. To be honest, I'm not even sure that many Ukrainians actually took part in the offensive. However, they might be onto something. The Times interviewed a Ukrainian soldier call sign Boyets, a 23-year-old storm group member from the elite Scala Assault Battalion. I brought up this unit multiple times throughout this counteroffensive. Boyets said, "Sure, we've breached the first line of the Russians, but effing hell, what a cost." This is a first-hand account from a Ukrainian soldier. The Times continues. Boyets' unit has already been reduced by casualties to 25% of its original strength since joining counteroffensive operations around the axis towards Robotine in July. And the life expectancy of storm units is the shortest on the front. In that case, they suffered 75% casualties in 3 months. Perhaps even more if they had replacements to fill in the gaps in the meantime. Hold on a second, that means that Boyets' unit, most likely a platoon, has only 10 men standing out of the 40 of the original strength? Or did they mean the entire Scala Assault Battalion? If the Assault Battalion was 500 men strong, only 125 would still be combat ready. We can imagine that all the assault formations that Ukraine gathered for this offensive got shredded. Once again, we don't have a full report of casualties, but on September 1st, the Kyiv Independent reported that the new 23rd Brigade, made up entirely of Mobics, took severe casualties. Once again, it's hard to interpret what all this means. Let's continue. According to the latest reports, the 47th Mechanized Brigade was removed from the front due to its high losses. A couple weeks ago, it was reported that half the brigade was removed from the front, and now that would mean that the entire brigade is now being deployed back to the rear to refit. Apparently on the 5th of September, one of their company commanders fell on the field of honor. Meanwhile, in this Facebook post from this Ukrainian man, he claims that the 47th Brigade lost 13 KIA and 63 wounded in just one attack. 76 losses out of a company, I imagine. If that unit was at full strength, we're talking about a 42% decrease in strength in just one assault. Also notice this interesting ratio of 5 wounded for every 1 KIA. And how do you even get 63 wounded men out? Here you can see some soldiers of the 47th Brigade evacuating one of their comrades who got seriously wounded during an assault north of Verbove. Maybe it was one of them. I really hope he made it out alive. And that explains what I read in the same article from the Times, where they write, medics attached to the 47th Mechanized Brigade say that the unit's casualties have run into 4 figures. What? How many losses are we actually talking about? 1,000? 2,000? 3,000? By NATO standards, this brigade has been annihilated. What a disaster. The article continues. So severe has been the fighting that in some instances, teams of medics with the 47th had their own numerical strength reduced to 50% because of casualties suffered on missions to collect wounded. As a reminder, the 47th Mechanized is the unit that lost at least 55 M2A2 Bradleys and a minimum of 16 Leopard 2s. I say at least because Oryx essentially stopped recording Ukrainian losses, or only does it on a part-time basis. For example, Oryx did not add the destroyed Bradley from the 9th of September, the one from the 15th of September, this other one from the 17th, or these two from the 23rd of September, and the latest one from the 5th of October. Well, it turns out NATO equipment is not that much better than Soviet one. It burns just about the same. The elite Maroon tactical group that was sent forward to salvage the operation also took a severe beating. The 14th Chervona Kalina Brigade is said to have suffered 50% losses, and the 82nd Air Assault Brigade, which was described as ridiculously powerful, is said to have lost its offensive potential. What's strange is that the 82nd Air Assault Brigade officially only lost a fraction of its vehicles. 2 or 3 Marder infantry fighting vehicles out of 40, 1 Challenger 2 out of 14, and 4 Striker APCs out of 90 units. I see 2 explanations. Number 1, more vehicles have been destroyed than what we can see from confirmed video evidence. Or Oryx simply did not count it as destroyed or damaged like the Striker from October 2nd. Number 2, the 82nd Air Assault Brigade simply lost too many of its 2,000 personnel to carry on combat missions. In fact, according to certain Russian sources, the 82nd Air Assault Brigade and the 46th Air Mobile Brigade together lost 867 soldiers in August alone. Let's say those include both KIA and wounded, and that they suffered the same rate of casualties throughout September. In that case, the 82nd Brigade would be down to 60% of its original strength in only 2 months. And that's huge because we know that casualties are not equally spread among the rank and file. Stormtrooper units like the one from Boyets we just saw bear the brunt of casualties. And if these units are all gone, well, the entire brigade cannot continue going on the offensive. Let's not forget how the 46th Air Mobile Brigade already took a beating in Bakhmut. The Washington Post reported, Kupol, a lieutenant colonel, said his battalion is unrecognizable. Of about 500 soldiers, roughly 100 were KIA and another 400 wounded, leading to a complete turnover. Kupol said he was the sole military professional in the battalion, and he described the struggle of leading a unit composed entirely of inexperienced troops. Once again, the 46th Air Mobile Brigade will have to be filled up with inexperienced conscripts. In my opinion, the only reason why the 47th Mechanized, the 46th Air Mobile, and the 82nd Air Assault Brigades can continue to operate is because they're fueled with infantrymen from other units, like the 116th, 117th, and 118th Mechanized Brigades kept at the rear. Meanwhile, the Telegram chat of the 35th Marine Brigade fighting in the Vremyevsky salient has been strangely silent lately. One might wonder how many of the admins are still alive. How about now we take a look at some of the numbers of the losses of troop transports. In July, the Washington Post already admitted that Ukraine had lost 20% of its weapons and armor just 1 month after starting the offensive. Since then, Oryx confirmed 23 Oshkosh M-ATVs destroyed or damaged, as well as 48 Max Pro MRAPs. These 48 destroyed Max Pros during the counteroffensive represent 76% of all Max Pros destroyed in Ukraine so far. This goes to show the intensity of the fighting. Same thing for the British-made Mastiff MRAPs, with 22 visually confirmed losses. That's also 76% of them having been destroyed or damaged during the summer campaign. As for the M113 APC, 27 units, or 47% of all losses occurred during the summer. As we have seen, these are probably higher in reality. Those examples are only snippets of the big picture, but it can provide you with a general idea of the number of losses of Ukrainian assault formations. Another tangible clue is that Ukraine is already in the process of replacing the forces of the depleted 9th and 10th Army Corps that participated in the summer offensive. And on top of that, Ukraine is forming another 10 new brigades, filled up entirely with conscripts. These 10 brigades would represent roughly 20,000 to 40,000 mobilized personnel, plus all the one required to fill in the gaps of the units that got shredded in the summer. This also explains the increasing number of videos appearing on social media showing how Ukrainian men are forcibly conscripted to the front. Of course, the mainstream media in the West will keep inviting so-called experts that will attempt some mental gymnastics to explain how Russians are actually taking more casualties. Oh yeah, because Ukrainian artillery is better, because cluster munitions and storm shadows, blah blah blah. This guy claimed that the Russians are suffering up to 500 KIA per day. What is he talking about? The Russians are defending from heavily fortified positions that they prepared for months. And they also benefit from an overwhelming firepower advantage. Realistically, how is it possible that they lose more men? Here's something I posted on Twitter the other day. According to the BBC-funded Mediazona, the confirmed number of military fatalities in the ranks of Russian armed forces from the 4th of June to the 19th of September amounts to 4,274. I repeat, 4,274. That's an average of 40 Russian soldiers KIA every 24 hours. All over Ukraine, not even Zaporozhye specifically. Even if that number doesn't paint the full picture, we're very far from the 500 KIAs per day. We all know why they do this. This is a massive coup, a silly and ridiculous attempt to camouflage Ukraine's military disaster, to camouflage the defeat they just suffered during the summer. While it was gone, the mainstream media pulled yet another PR stunt, as experts brought up the so-called Verbove breakthrough. On the 23rd of September, CNN reported Ukrainian forces have broken through in Verbove. On the 24th, Deutsche Welle, Ukraine making good progress in the south. Here, the Telegraph, on the 25th of September, Ukraine makes tactical breakthrough after breaching Russian defenses. What? Please tell me, where is that breakthrough the entire mainstream is talking about? That was the front on the 18th of September, just before I left. And here it is on the 1st of October. Where is the breakthrough? Oh yeah, if you squint your eyes really hard, you can see that they captured a couple of tree lines. Is this breakthrough in the room with us right now? Here's what actually happened near Verbove. In this video posted on the 26th of September, you can see an entire column of Ukrainian vehicles destroyed or abandoned on the way to the village. One could say the real breakthrough is in our hearts. No. The real breakthrough is the number of shells Russia managed to fire along the way. We can count up to 40 pieces of equipment left behind on this road of death. That's the amount of vehicles of an entire Ukrainian assault battalion. If you're wondering about the rate of casualties, about a third of a Ukrainian brigade lies there, and this within 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, that's why Verbove is still Russian. Some Ukrainian units did reach the outskirts of the village, but they could not push any further because any incoming reinforcements got hammered by Russian firepower on their way there. In this video, 4 Ukrainian infantrymen are transported away from the front in a pickup when a drone comes crashing in. We can even see how tired they are by the lack of responsiveness to this action. In this one, a BMP brings reinforcements to the front when he gets targeted by an anti-tank missile. Meanwhile, Russian aviation is very active on the Zaporozhye front. In this frame, they dropped an FAB 500, not the 250, the bigger model, the 500 kilogram bomb, on an advancing Ukrainian unit near Verbove. And then Ukraine has to get all the wounded, evacuate them. As you can imagine, it puts a lot of strain on their already stretched out resources. Here the Russians even got naughty and launched not one, but an FAB foursome. Let's just say the load was huge on this one. Seriously, how many losses do you think Ukraine suffered as a result of all these strikes? Ukraine needs a response. For weeks now, Russian drones have been targeting any unit rotating in or out from the battlefield. In this one, the drone operator waits for these 2 Ukrainian infantrymen to run into this dugout towards the rest of their squad before striking. It's also interesting to note that the Russians carried 549 drone attacks in the month of September, up from 96 in June, thus confirming what I expected in my previous video. So yeah, in the end, there is no breakthrough. Verbove is still Russian, Novoprokopivka is still Russian, Kopani is still Russian, and Novopokrovka is still Russian. In this sector, Ukraine only managed to capture Robotine, but as you can see on this topographic map, the Russian army has effectively trapped the Ukrainian army in a cauldron because the Russians barricaded the access to the main road leading to Tokmak and Melitopol. Ukrainian formations were only able to progress through this lowland, but were stopped by this ridgeline. Now, to hold on to their gains, Ukraine overcrowded the area, which led to major management problems. Ukrainian units are more likely to interfere with each other than to advance in a coordinated manner. So now Ukrainians are desperately trying to expand the breachhead by launching even more attacks towards Kopani and north of Verbove. Nothing new since we already spoke about it in my last video. That's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of my analysis. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to support my work, make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal. The link is in the description below.